Welcome, everyone. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are making music beyond the classroom. That's right, folks who are lifelong learners in music and making music, performing music, helping people with music. And it's very interesting to me to talk to friends and folks who still do this today, beyond the classroom. We are sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We do such things as fix instruments. We do lessons, focus in adult learning, and we also do some performance initiatives that are happening. One being the annual Community Band by the Sea concert, which is at the end of July of every year. This for 2026 will be our sixth year, believe it or not. And also, we have done the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band, where we recreate the Bethlehem Steel Company Band in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Now, we've done that for 2 years. I'm actually sporting the one shirt. No, over here, here's the logo of that band. And both of those groups, if you're interested in being involved with them, you can actually come to a rehearsal just prior to the performance and then do the performance the next day. We also do such things as tuba Christmases, which occur in Easton, Pennsylvania and Belvedere, New Jersey. And if you know anything about tuba Christmases, there's a rehearsal just prior, and you can be a participant of that. So if you're ever interested in engaging in any of our activities that we have, do check out www.artmusicemporium.com. We also on YouTube, which I'm hoping you're watching this podcast on. Do subscribe to our channel as well. We're on social such as Facebook. Give us a like. And we do have a Patreon account if you are, again, interested in participating or giving anything to folks, again, helping them make music beyond the classroom. Continue this lifelong learning in music engagement. I'm so excited about my next guest. Believe it or not, a fellow Penn Stater, I say that all the time, was a mentor, helped me. I know when I was getting into the research world, we got together. I still remember our talking about research and talking about band, which helped me so much at that particular time. He is specifically a band director at Juniata College, a great percussionist. He's helped a lot of folks in the community and beyond. And I'm just so honored to have him on this podcast. Give it up for Dr. Jim Latten. How are you doing, Jim?
Good, good. It's great to be here. I don't know if anyone's ever said give it up for me before, so thanks for that. And it's great to see you once again and to be able to talk about this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so great because I know you're right in the world of doing this, and we're going to get to that in a second. And I thought we'd start off a little bit. I've been asking a lot of our guests if you would share a little bit about how you got involved with music, because I think that's kind of important because I see, folks it kind of carries on, right? And have those experiences. So I thought maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I come from the camp of a family that was not into music. Probably some of your guests and many people that our viewers know came from a musical family, a musical background. There was music playing all the time. That was not my case. What I recall back uh, going on 60 years ago was um, for no apparent reason at Christmas, my parents bought me one of those chord organs with 22 keys and a few buttons to push to give you automatic chords. And so that was under the tree at Christmas, which happened to coincide with the year that I, as an only child, um, uh, dared myself to sneak out at 4:30 in the morning and try to open a corner of a package and then tape it back up and go back to bed. And that was the year. So only after unwrapping the chord organ at 5 in the morning and plugging it in, I started making music, which woke up the rest of the family. And there we go. So the rest was history as far as is that. And I didn't get in trouble. What could they say? Here he is making music. But there wasn't really, other than my mom singing from time to time in the house, there wasn't really music going on. The other thing that prompted this, again, for no apparent reason, was, well, I guess there was a reason. There was a church band in the early 70s, a contemporary Christian band in the early stages of that genre, which played in our church one Sunday morning. And so it was the first time I had seen a drum set. And I was just really, other than on television, I was just really amazed by that. So I guess a few weeks later in Big N, which later became the Ames department store, which later became the Hills department store, back Big N or Neisner's, there was a child drum set up on a shelf somewhere, and my dad and I were just walking through the store, and I remember just kind of going like this, and my dad said, "Well, do you want that?" And I was pretty shy. I very easily could have said no because I'd be shy and say no about most things. And I said, yeah, I would like that. So we got it, and that's where the percussion with paper drum heads, not even plastic mylar heads, paper drum heads that lasted a couple months. That's where all that started, I guess. Um, Fast forward to third and fourth grade and the beginnings of band, and I stuck with my guns and went for percussion. And those are so the earliest memories and the genesis of all this.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome that you just like, you saw it, and it just like it kind of took your eye, and it's awesome that your family, helped get one for you because I've heard the other side of it, where they're like, "Oh no, you don't need that." You
Right, right.
know? It,
And then, thanks to technology and especially Facebook, all these decades later, I've been able to track down an LP that was made by that Christian contemporary group,
that's awesome.
which was my role model that I saw this person playing drums.
Yeah.
So all these years later, I've been in touch with not the player, but the person that owned the LP and was there in church on that day and everything. So it's been nice.
That's cool. That's cool. And that's awesome. You even got in touch with them. That's neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I may ask, and as you're thinking about this, this experience, and you brought right there, seeing the instrument and seeing them playing, what was it about the music that you were hearing, the percussion playing that you were hearing, from that individual, that really, I guess, inspired you to do and be involved with it.
Gosh, I don't know. As opposed to um, the three tenors or the five basses that were singing in that group,
Right.
um, as a shy child, now that I think about it, why would I have been attracted to the thing where you can't hide? You're the one drummer. There aren't
Right.
multiple drummers. Um, but yet I was, and I'm not sure. It may have been that individuality thing
Hmm.
that no one else gets to do that, or there was just something about the visual and of course the sound that attracted me to it. But I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. I'm not sure. But I do recall that in our particular school district, they gave the seashore test of music aptitude.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and I remember taking that in the early 70s and must have gotten a high score because we got the letter at home that says your son or daughter has done well on this test. We'd like them to start an instrument. And I chose percussion. And I remember the director, in order to try to balance out the band,
Yeah.
already had two percussionists and only one trombone and was trying to get me to switch to trombone. I must have had a pretty high score. I don't know. But I really stuck to my guns and went for percussion. And so after he had retired and moved to North Carolina, I looked him up and went down and visited him and his wife in retirement and said, thank you for letting me stick to my guns and stick to percussion. It was a good decision.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. Well, you know the joke. It's always in the music teacher world, that where everyone wants to play percussion, everyone wants to bang on the drum, right? So we
Mhm.
always push them away. But especially with you, you just had that connection to it, and whether or not you can explain it or not, that's okay. It's just, I bring that up because I think a lot of folks don't realize that these experiences captivate you and something that you could recall, like, me just asking you this question right now, we didn't talk about this before, we started this, and you go right there, to remembering, those experiences, and like me, for example, I can always think about, my experiences with my grandmother hanging Christmas lights. I actually just talked about this where I was listening to an LP and I went back and figured out what LP. And of course, there was all kinds of artists on there, but there was the Boston Pops on there, Arthur
Mhm.
Fiedler, playing and doing a Christmas festival. And it's just one of those favorite tunes that is just stuck in my head because, arrangements of all the Christmas carols because I don't know, it
Mhm.
just has that memory, and that's just where it sticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, then, so after going through school and stuff, you continued on. You wanted to, obviously, I know you went on the college with
Right.
percussion, you know what I mean? And you had that interest. And I mean, I didn't know if you wanted to share anything about that, of possibly why you dedicated your life to band and dedicate your life to
Yeah.
percussion.
Oh, yeah. In my case, it is definitely due to a couple things. In high school, that was my biggest thing.
Mhm.
I had good success in all my other classes as well, but I couldn't imagine a life without music. And then that director I spoke of retired at the end of my junior year,
Oh,
and our new director that came in um, to take his place was immediately an amazing role model. Just wanted to be exactly like him and do what he did for a living, which was teach band. And there was really no choice in my mind that at that point I had to follow in his footsteps and go into music. Um, so that was probably the biggest impetus or the biggest decision maker was that. And then looking at schools, I definitely wanted to continue in marching band, and by that time was beginning to know what drum corps was,
yeah.
and started to follow that, going to summer shows as much as I could, especially one in Corning, New York, which I really enjoyed
Yeah.
every year. So those are situations, and then of course, as you know, once you get to music and you're surrounded completely just by music majors,
Mhm.
life is pretty amazing. So yeah, bachelor's from Mansfield State is what it was at the time, and then Mansfield University. It switched while I was there,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
and then right on to graduate school at IU Bloomington.
Oh, okay.
And at the time of this taping, we are anticipating Indiana meeting for the National Football Championship, not basketball, football, this coming weekend. And so that's a pretty crazy thing. I would have worn an Indiana shirt, but I thought I should rep my own college
Yeah.
uh, where I work. But go Hoosiers! We're looking forward to seeing that this weekend. After that, if we want to go further into career, it was 3 years in one high school and then 10 years or seven in another high school, um, teaching in central New York and western New York,
Oh,
um, which I very much enjoyed. Enjoyed the students, enjoyed the parents, enjoyed the um, little baby steps to the next level of accomplishment, and then pushing to the next one was very successful with all of that. Um, During my time at my second high school job, I'm in my early 30s,
yeah.
and that's where if you're going to start to think about going for a doctoral degree and leaving high school teaching, that's sort of where you do it. And you look at the finances, you look at the numbers, and then I was near Syracuse, and
Hmm.
so we would tried for many years to get a college band, a visiting college band, to play at our field on Friday night, stay overnight, and then they would play at Syracuse the next day. And finally found one from
Hmm.
Eastern Michigan,
Yeah.
and they came and did our halftime Friday night,
Yeah.
and followed their team to the Dome in Syracuse and played on Saturday. And watching that college director uh, and the resources he had and
Hmm.
the graduate assistants he had around him
Yeah.
and the quality of musicianship from the college students really kind of sealed the deal. I've got to go for this while I can.
Yeah.
And so that sent me on the journey toward getting a doctoral degree, getting a terminal degree. I knew I wanted to go to a place with a marching program, and Penn State had always, ever since listening to Penn State football on the radio early in my life, I
Yeah.
knew that's kind of where I wanted to be.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, see, I learned something about you. I didn't know you were up in New York State teaching, so that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I speak fluent NISMA.
Yeah, and it's like,
Uh,
yeah.
still do percussion NISMA judging.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm learning all about it, just because you'll actually appreciate this. I'll just share this really quickly. I actually just did a an elementary uh, county band audition. And it was cool. Like I don't really remember, Pennsylvania having anything like that, as far as like an audition, like a full-blown audition where they come in and it was just they start them, at fifth year, fifth grade, fifth and sixth grade.
Mhm.
And I had fifth graders coming in there who were totally terrified to play in front of me. You know what I mean? Just because they were nervous.
Yeah.
And it was just awesome to see them, just pick up their instrument and do it. And then, of course, you had the ones who were really bold, which was great too, come in and sit down and play too. And it was just wonderful to see them, such a young age, wanting to do something like that, So, but
Mhm.
well, that's awesome. Well, hey, so. I wanted to jump in a little bit because I know, I know you've been at Juniata College, and I know you have a kind of, and maybe I'll have actually rather me explain it. You can talk a little bit about kind of your band program that you have there, which is, I believe it's a kind of a mix of active students and then adults, and then we
Mhm.
kind of jump into the adult world a little bit. But I'm just interested if you want to share a little bit about that because that's like, I love this mix of different age groups all the time, and that's not to set you up anywhere, but that's something that's very passionate to me because I feel like, where in the world can you do that? Where in your world can you work with somebody who, and no pun intended, age-wise, is in their 60s or 70s with someone who's in their 20s? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And do the same thing together. Um, so it's just fascinating to me. But anyway, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about like what you got going on at the college, a little
Yeah,
bit.
I'm gonna actually start with two quick stories
Oh, great.
and then get
Great.
into that because if I
Perfect.
don't, I'll forget to
Yeah,
mention these amazing stories.
go for it.
And the first one is after most of my doctoral classes were finished, I took a job at the University of Dayton for 2 years.
Okay.
And while I was out there, I conducted the Centerville Community Band.
Okay.
And of course, when we think lifelong learning in music,
Yeah.
community band or community choir, community orchestra are the things that we would certainly think of. And
Yeah.
in the community band, I inherited, among other people, an 80 plus something year old bassoonist who had been in the band for 60 years, started and was one of my two bassoon players.
Hmm.
What I didn't know was that just before I had arrived, he had been a clarinet player in the band for 60 years
Wow.
and got tired of it and wanted to try something new. So what I inherited was what I thought was a pretty fine bassoonist, but he was new to the instrument. At age 80 plus, talk about lifelong learning, switched to
Yeah.
a different woodwind instrument. And
Yeah.
that's not an easy switch, clarinet to bassoon.
No.
Um, the other quick story before kind of laying this out is that here at Juniata we just had our 75th anniversary of bands. Thus the swag. We did not have this before.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we've got shirts and sweatshirts and things. And we had a 75th, I'm sorry, 90th. 75th was before. A 90th anniversary
Mhm.
celebration. Alumni came back and played and things. And one of our alumni um, had later gone on to become the provost of the college.
Oh, wow.
Um, Graduated in 1952 from the institution,
Yeah.
professor, and then provost. So now he's in his mid 90s. And
Yeah.
he came back and played and has decided that he wants to join us coming this spring every Monday night. So he will be the most advanced age member
Yeah.
that we have had, and we're really looking forward to that. But anyway, to the lifelong learning, and certainly
Yeah.
this is a laboratory for that at the smaller institution
Hmm.
where we don't have music majors. For a long time, we did not have scholarships, but now we do. Um, we need to fill holes in the instrumentation so that the band um, is full so that we have all the parts covered. And so at smaller institutions and or in smaller towns, we have to reach out to the community and offer them the possibility of playing along with our students. And our students really enjoy it. I've never had a negative complaint in all these years from students about, sitting next to me is a 50, 60-year-old person or whatever. They really enjoy it.
Hmm.
We have had internships come out of that where um, someone they're sitting next to needs an internship. Well, this person has contacts out in the world. We've had job offers come from that. Uh,
Hmm.
a former clarinetist of ours is now working in the area because of a connection made in our uh, in our band. So
Yeah. Wow.
lifelong learning is really a huge byproduct
Hmm.
and necessity and a joy.
Yeah.
All of those things here in what I do here, as well as the uh, community regional band that I direct,
Hmm.
as well as you mentioned earlier, the band camp for adult musicians
Hmm.
that I'm involved with that's at Susquehanna University. It was at Allegheny College for many years. We hosted it at Juniata for a couple, and now it's entrenched over at Susquehanna. And that'll be it's every June. It's coming
Yeah.
up this June for 1 week or two, depending on how long people want to stay. And that is lifelong learning as well, because in that situation, we bring out 30 or 35 pieces. It's a sight reading camp. We sight read a lot of tunes, work on them a little bit, and then select a few for the concert at the end of the week. And so that also is lifelong learning. There might be a few participants that were music teachers, but many of them are coming back to their instrument after a career outside of music.
Hmm.
And the instrument sat on the shelf for a while, and now it's coming back out. And that also is lifelong learning that is less affected by aging than say, I there aren't nearly as many going to I know they have them where you
Yeah.
can go to Major League Baseball fantasy camp and you might be 50, 60, 70 years old and you pay the fee and you get a uniform and you actually get to play.
Yeah.
Uh, but athletics, that's not quite as easy or popular as it would be with continuing to play your instrument.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's awesome. Like it's awesome you're so involved with everything, and and especially involved with that camp. And I had a couple questions a little bit about your actual band program. You brought up some great things, and let's first talk about like what you were sharing a little bit. You made the comment about how the students, the current students at the at the college is got contacts, contacts that they would have probably never have gotten anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I just was I wanted to ask a little bit about that. Besides the lifelong learning part of it, do you find like I mean, do you find how do you find the students to be a little bit more engaging as far as is with the with those folks being obviously and not being weird here, but the older folks that are there that aren't part of really the college. Do you find them a lot engaging? Do you find them you know um, focused? Talking. Like the social aspect, those kind of things. If I may ask.
Definitely. Um, and as I look at it from, if I put the student's shoes on and look at this, which I really haven't done, I'm realizing as I flesh this out that
Yeah.
it's the only time during the week they would get to do that. In all of their other classes, it's one professor and um, their academic class. This being a different thing, being rehearsals, having a different character in that genre, as
Yeah.
well as adult learners next to them, um, is engaging. It's fascinating to them, and I actually do look for connections. When I knew that I had this is a different bassoonist. When I knew that I had a bassoonist coming in that had connections in history and museum studies, I knew that my college librarian, my band librarian, the sheet music librarian, was interested in history and museum studies and plays clarinet. So I needed to put the two of those together to talk about history and museum studies. And over the course of 4 years, they did that. Um, it was actually funny at this recent reunion we had, the 90th
Yeah.
reunion, where one of the returning players he's now a chemistry professor at Penn State and plays French horn. And he came back and he's mid 30s, early 40s, maybe. And in my bassoon section, I have a student bassoonist who's a chemistry major. They went to the same high school, 20 years apart. And so I made sure that they talked to each other about chemistry things. And so, sort of feeding that a little bit because I know that it has great potential
Yeah.
of the connection between um, uh, the younger and older students.
Yeah.
So, plus, we all hope that these current college students that are not majoring in music will go on to be lifelong players,
Hmm.
lifelong
Yeah.
learners
Yeah.
in music or in anything. And what a great way to model that for them
Yeah.
than, no better way than sitting next to someone who's doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it all works out very well. At the bare minimum, the utilitarian reason is we need more trumpets or we need more oboes or something like that, or the music needs that. But all these extra lifelong learning reasons are not secondary. They're really crucial as well.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking as you're sitting here talking about this, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, it's like we're not even talking about the music yet. We're just talking about, the aspect of all these folks in a room,
Mhm.
together, working together on music, which we'll talk about in a second. But, it's just very interesting to me how they get these connections. They get to talk to people. They hear about life experiences where, sometimes I think you don't necessarily get that at another college. You don't get that at one of the bigger universities. I mean, you don't really get, I mean, you get your connections with your colleagues, and I'm not saying like with your fellow classmates, but I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's great. But it's just like, you're talking to seasoned people who are out there who can help you or who are already in the job, that they might be interested in. And it's just fascinating to me of how that connection can happen, you know? And it's just like, all them in the room. And just like you said, it's all dictated by what you might need, within the band. But I'm just interested too, like if you may ask, and this is more of the music question side of it too. I find it, what would you feel, what do you feel happens with these different different learners, different folks of different ages, that kind of thing in a room, as far as your band compared to say if they were all of the same age and all of the same, all part of the students in the room. I mean, do you notice anything different, as what's happening musically, or is what's happening, as far as you, like, for example, something, I'm able to do this band piece, for example, and I know that's probably the easiest one because you can fill it out and put the trumpet you need, or, if you need a tuba player or whatever, those kind of things. But I was just interested in it, if you notice anything musically on that side of it that kind of occurs or happens when you run that program.
Um, yeah, I would say that many of the non-college students that I have, the adult
Mhm.
learners, the adult players
Mhm.
are in more than one ensemble. On Monday nights they're with
Yeah.
us. They might be in the Altoona Community Band on Tuesdays. They might be in the State College one on Wednesdays. Some of them do multiple ones. And so that experience, that aspect, that sound benefits our students that may have come from a large high school program. They may have come from a very small high school program
Yeah.
where they were the only French horn for all those years. And now they benefit by hearing these people next to them that have not just life experience, but musical experience. Some as music majors, some as not. To sit next to them, what better way? I can't provide that as the conductor. That's got to come from um, an alto sax sitting next to another alto sax.
Hmm.
One's played for 50 years and one's played for 7 and is quite good, but picks up some things uh, visually, orally, uh, as they sit next to each other
Yeah.
and play. So it's like having little extra teachers in the ensemble.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's I refrain from saying this to you because as I was asking this question, I'm involved with one right now. I'm actually involved with a, college student kind of group. And I just noticed that, when the baton goes down, the sound that the band gets, it's a great sounding band. So it's awesome. But it's like I always think about that. I'm like, is it, and I'm not saying anything less about the students or about the community members, but I think just together, I just feel like I'm biased. I'm going to tell you that. I feel like the group just sounds amazing because we're able to do more. And just like you said, people pick up things, from each other, including myself. I pick up things from the euphonium player that's, 25 years younger than me. Playing this tune, playing a band piece that I haven't played yet. He's like, oh, I did this in high school. I should do this, this, and that, and everything. But it's just like, I keep going back to this, it's like we're all working together, and I know we do that in the real world when you're a job, and I'm thinking beyond college, not music, that kind of thing. But I still don't, I still don't get that like, where else can you do this? It's just like you get together and you make music together, and it's just I don't know. It's all for the same goal.
Mhm. True, true. It's very true. Other than the occasional but rare community member that will come back and sit in and take a math class
Hmm. Yeah,
or something like that. Those things do happen, but it's quite
yeah,
rare. Here, it's I'd say it's much more standard. I
hmm,
can't think of another part of the collegiate life where this would be,
yeah,
if the basketball team needs an extra tall center, you can't go find a 6'11" person that's a senior citizen and put them into that. That rarely
hmm,
would work in the competitive NCAA genre, but we can, and our students benefit from it. That's what our administrators would ask is certainly we understand uh, you don't have a piccolo player and this song will not work without a piccolo. But what will our students get out of that? Well, they'll hear the piccolo, number one. The audience will hear the full package, but that piccolo player will talk to the other people nearby and shed life experiences out on them, and it's really great.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing, like I think about it too, and I'm sure you've experienced this, is just like the learning everybody gets. And I say everybody because you even think the seasoned members that are there, they're still learning, they're still picking up, you're still working on pieces and on repertoire, and even maybe that they've played it before. I just find that fascinating where everybody's just learning together at that particular point. And then
Mhm.
and you made a comment yourself, you're like, well, maybe the 60-year-old decides to come back and take a math class. Well, that might inspire him to do that, and I feel like I know hopefully in this world today, people aren't like this, but I find, kind of my goal with this whole podcast. It's like, well, I was in band in school and now I'm done, and that's it. That's all I have to do. And people, I think, shut off that kind of learning, and that talent. And that's just frustrating because, just your prime example, it's like you have everybody together performing and you're all about them continuing making music throughout. And I don't know. It's just fascinating to me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's wonderful to see. When I knew we were going to talk about lifelong learning,
Yeah.
I kind of had two aspects of that, or maybe three. One is that I consider myself a lifelong learner. Secondly, we're trying to encourage our students to do that. But the third one is as a conductor, I just get to witness lifelong learning happening
Yeah.
throughout the ensemble. That I might be an example of it, but I'm a fan of it, that I can watch others going through this, whether it's the summertime group um, or this college band.
Yeah, and you made a comment earlier, and I know I wanted to ask you about that. It's just like the 80-year-old, bassoonist who was the clarinetist who learns a different instrument to play in the band. Where does that, it's like I don't know, and I don't want to say it's wrong. Like, you think 80-year-olds, you think, oh, you're going to be watching television and that's it. That's what you're going to be doing in retired life, and slowing down. What? You learn a new instrument? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. That was um, that changed me. That changed my outlook and philosophy and my appreciation. Knowing that person, I think he had the same name as my father. I think they had the same name. Appreciation for getting to that age and maybe doing that by seeing someone do it successfully.
yeah, and it's just it's just great because it's just and that's a prime example of you bringing it up that you're never too young or old to do this. It's just I don't know. I keep dwelling on that because again, I run into a lot of people that this was something I did when I was a kid, that kind of thing. And granted, yes, he was still involved with the band, but at the same time, learning a new instrument, it's just amazing to me that you're kind of saying that. And I wanted to share a little bit too. I remember it was a Raystown Winds, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that you run as a summer group. I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that because I know that I know you run a couple summer concerts and you do a couple different performances. I know you pull from musicians all over the place, and I,
Mhm.
I was just interested in hearing a little bit about your philosophy and your thought process with that. Yeah.
Yeah, the genesis of that was that there were conducting scores that I owned and pieces that I had studied that I knew I'd never be able to do again with my college group, but I wanted to do them, and I wanted to keep that aspect of my conducting skills alive. So I started this group about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and put it together from the trying to find the best people in the region, regardless of age.
Mhm.
So we've had a couple junior high kids, a few high schoolers. It's certainly hope that some of my college kids would be involved with this, and then people from the community. For music educators to be able to have a group to keep up their playing skills on, as well as retirees and others. So it has run the gamut from pre-college students right through to older players as well. So I've been doing that for 12 or 13 years. It is unfortunately one of the things I've decided to give up as of after our concert next month.
Oh,
Just to we were talking before the broadcast about it's only 168 hours in the week,
yeah,
and
yeah,
uh, in order to accommodate a couple new things that
yeah,
I've always wanted to do, I've had to cut out some old things that are just going to have to fall by the wayside. So my wife and I are still interested in hopefully playing in the group, playing in the percussion section, but
yeah,
all of the outside planning and recruiting things was a lot to do. So
yeah.
anyway, that ensemble has a concert next month, February in Altoona, and that's been a real joy to watch the lifelong learning and
Yeah.
learning of new pieces. There's an endless supply of new pieces to put in front of these groups and apply previous skills to new literature.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, and you're using I always say this, the kind of the more heftier pieces, as we call them, meaning,
Mhm.
the ones that you can't, not very easy sight read,
Right.
And it's awesome that you're doing that because that's bringing like that higher caliber, of music making, and that's awesome. You've been doing that for so many years, and I'm happy that, it seems like can continue. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, if I may ask, like, as you're, through all your, all these different bands that you've been involved with, and even and I know you mentioned a little bit that you're working with a drum corps, and you have a lot of ideas yet and things that you want to do on your bucket list, quote unquote, for music. I was just interested if, and I'm asking you particularly, what do you find intriguing yet in your life as far as when it comes to this music making? and how it continues to inspire you to continue making, music and helping others making music in the band world. Yes, I know, quote unquote, Juniata is your college. I get that, or your job, the college that you're working for. I get that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But I'm more or less thinking, in the realm of, you know, how you continue to inspire others, continue to make music with others, continue wanting to do these kind of things. Because again, you could not, not
Mhm.
be involved with the band camp and not involved with, anything anymore and just quote unquote do your job. You know what I mean? I was just interested if you wanted
Yeah.
to share a little bit about that because I see that in your mind of how you're, just interested in continuing pushing yourself in the lifelong learning side of things.
Yeah, yeah. As I over the past years, as I've seen people retire from music positions, some of them continue on with lots of musical activity.
Hmm.
Um, the flip side of that is what was kind of the toughest pill to swallow sometimes. I would see professors or others retire from their music position, which they truly loved, and sell everything musically and leave that part of their life. And that's their decision. And I'm not them. Um, I would not be able to do that. I can't imagine, a couple of my professors from Mansfield, and when they retired, that was it. They
Hmm.
retired from the career and they retired from the act of music making.
Hmm.
And wow, I just can't. I couldn't fathom it at 17 or 18 when I was thinking of what I should major in, and I can't fathom it now
Hmm.
selling my instruments and not doing this. I can't imagine. So, personally, in lifelong learning, as I prepare to give up a few things this year in order to spend more time with the drum corps, spend more time at home, spend more time not having a full inbox of emails that I can't get to. I want to get back into my solo performance. I've got a room full of instruments that are not getting the amount of use that I think they should. Uh,
That's
I
cool.
need to get downstairs and hammer away through solo literature, through duets with my wife, through maybe playing in some ensembles. Yeah, so lifelong learning, the hope of all this is that my lifelong learning is going to kind of head in a different direction, but have a ton of things going on. Uh,
Yeah.
Not only relearning solos that I knew in the past, but learning new material.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
So if I may ask that, like what, and I know you're not of the retirement time yet, you know what I mean? But like, what is that motivation for you to do that? Like to push yourself to, you know, and I know you're not leaving music, but you're redirecting, pushing yourself, because there's some things that you want to do there. I mean, what is about that motivation that gets you to, inspiring you to do that and not just be like, okay, I'm done. That's the chapter, I'm done. Like the soloing side of it too. You know what I mean? Like you did soloing and you not that you stopped it, it just you've been busy doing a gazillion other things, right? But you want to go back to it. So it's not like you want to not do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's just so much in your bloodstream, uh, in my case, and some others as well. Um, I guess an analogy might be certain baseball managers
Mhm.
in Major League. They were players, then they retired from playing, so they became a scout and became a bench coach and then a manager. And now they're in their early 70s with great success as a manager. It's in their bloodstream.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
or they retire and then become a high school coach or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
While others might leave baseball completely.
Right.
I can't imagine not music making.
Yeah.
So, that'll certainly continue.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know. It's just it's cool that it's kind of in your brain that you want to do that kind of stuff because it's just like you want to continue doing this. It's like you have that motivation that you want to continue to perform and continue pushing yourself and maybe in different areas, but it's just like I don't get that. That's the thing I guess I don't understand is how people can just shut it down. You know what I mean?
Right.
And as I said, it's the high schools and the high schools and colleges, and usually that's like high school I feel is like the first drop off if you're doing it then, and then college is the next drop off. It seems like that's the two areas, and it's like I'm just an advocate that you can continue pushing yourself because I've gotten the excuses of I have family, I have work, I have this, I have that, and I totally get that because we're all busy, but it's just it's just something about it that's just interesting, and it's great that you're gonna continue that. It's inspiring is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have two or three private lessons that I teach right now. That had been up to 11, 12, 13 a
Yeah.
week. I've also cut back from that.
Okay.
And so I'll still continue to teach a couple lessons here in the house. Now that there's finally a studio full of instruments,
Yeah.
we'll use them for that purpose as well.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's great. It's great to hear that, because it's just inspiring. It's just inspiring to hear people, continue, doing that. And that's just your prime example of that because you're still doing it. So it's awesome. So
Yeah.
hey, as we're kind of wrapping this up, this is a question that I usually ask a lot of folks, on this podcast. Being, what they're interested in music, and I actually forgot to mention this to you. You'll appreciate this. One of my guests on here was a very strong advocate for drum corps, and he calls it he jokes it's the defective gene, right? It's the defective gene because he says he's just like, I mean, he eats and sleeps and does drum corps. I mean, he even travels states away to go into a performance, and he's like, it's so foolish. We do this, performance 7, 8 minutes or something like that, and you put so much time into it, right? But it's just all about that. But I was just interested in if you wanted to share a little bit about what you would say to anybody, any folks who might be interested in either returning to the music making world, and this can be any music making world, or if they're interested in coming out and performing, and getting involved if they never had a chance to. So I have a lot of folks who have been on that spectrum too, where, they're in their 40s, 50s, 30s, whatever, and they never were able to make music, in their school life, I'll say it that way. And some people think that it's too late, which I will disagree and say it isn't. You know what I mean? You can come out and do it. I mean, prime example of being your bassoon player that switched instruments. Now, of course, I know they were involved with music prior to that, but still, it is a new instrument, right? So, but I was just interested if you had any advice, any words of wisdoms, any thoughts, any things you would say to these folks, to get them to once again be involved with music.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind would be for those that have never played, that are the kids are out of the house now they're empty nesters. Now what do we do? Um, and there's a thing called which you're no doubt aware of, the New Horizons program, which is a national, maybe international program of beginning music making experiences for adult beginners, or maybe those that are returning to the instrument after um, raising the family and now they're close to retirement themselves. What are we going to do with our time coming back to an instrument? So
Mhm.
just have to type in New Horizons band, and one near you will certainly pop up.
Mhm.
And then it's a matter of some of those include a lesson program as well. And I know of places where New Horizons might be hosted by a university, and some of the music majors at that university will serve as some of the lesson teachers for the program. It's perfect. It's absolutely a perfect synergy and a win-win-win-win for all involved. So there's that. This clarinet player that I mentioned that was our provost here at the college, now in his mid 90s, decided a few years ago to pick up the clarinet again, and with a private teacher in the area. The private teacher is um, uh, another member of our ensemble that is also retirement age. So that's kind of funny that a retiree is teaching an older retiree. But I love it. That lifelong
Yeah.
learning is great.
Yeah.
So, by all means, there are so many avenues or ways to get involved, uh, even if it's with a keyboard where the keyboard does half of the work for you. It allows you to capture that music making urge that everybody in some way would have.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I know I think a lot of people don't think there's opportunities out there, and there are, and even hopefully in your town that you're at, there probably is a local group, that would be happy to have you involved. And if you haven't played an instrument yet, there's always some teachers out there, that can help you with that. And I think you sum it up well. It's just getting out there and doing it and just getting involved with it and being there and seeing what exists, and it's awesome to hear retiree teaching a retiree too. It's just
Yeah,
great.
right, right.
Well, hey, Jim, well, thank you so much for, like I said, being on this podcast. I appreciate your always been an inspiration, as well as how much you help people and provide people, a place to play. And I know you're doing wonderful, great things at your college and as well as, with other people in the community. And I think it's just awesome that you as yourself too, that you're pushing yourself to go in avenues that you haven't done in a while too. So it's an inspiration. So I just wanted to say, keep at it and keep moving forward. Not that you need it from little old me, but it's just amazing to hear that, making music. And I just want to thank you for, all your years of service, helping others continue making music.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. It's just lifelong learning is it's a joy to watch. It provides joy, and I hope that people will certainly realize that in music and in other things, it's certainly possible. But to retire and stop doing everything, I can't. That's not in my bones. So looking forward to the next stage of lifelong learning, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that too, because I think a lot of people think that, you retire and that's it. And that's not it.
No,
So, all
that's true.
right. Well, thanks
Yeah. Well,
again,
thank you
Jim.
again.
Yeah. Thank you.